Hello.
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 Hello. Hello. Hi.
Hi.
So,
Bonjour.
all things French. What's happening right now?
I don't know.
Oh.
Say super chouette.
Did you just call me a super twat?
No, say super chouette. That's my favorite French saying. It's super tubular.
You just called me a super twat.
I did not.
Super schwat?
Say super chouette.
Super twat. Yeah,
Super
I heard it.
twat. No, it's not. I would never call you a super twat.
I feel like you're going to now, though.
I mean, also makes me think of one of Isla's favorite shows for like a brief moment was Super Kitties, but she never pronounced the kitties, and she'd be like, Super Titties. And Jeff would always say, oh, that's my favorite show too.
Oh, Jeffrey.
All about the boobs.
Is he a boob guy?
He's an everything guy. He's just a lady guy.
He's a lady guy.
He's a lady guy. We were just joking about it this past week. Our 12th wedding anniversary is coming up in September, but we've been together 16 years. And yeah, my butt and my boobs do not get old to him at all. He grabs them more now than he did before.
Yeah. Charles is very handsy, too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm not mad about it. Oh, this is gonna. Yeah. And I think that's how you keep romance alive, right? You just constantly are touching each other. I call them brubs.
Excuse me?
Boob rubs, butt rubs, ball rubs. They're just all around brubs. We're going to coin that term now.
It feels like my husband touches my butt so much that if he does walk by me now and doesn't touch my butt, I'm like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
What's going on here?
I agree.
It doesn't happen very often, but when it happens, I surely take notice.
Yeah. Are you a grabber?
Yes, ma'am, I am.
Okay.
We are
all the things?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, all the things.
I'm more of a butt grabber than I would be a front grabber.
I'm a front grabber.
A front grabber?
Front
That's called a frub.
Oh, Jesus.
A front.
Wait, what's the other one? A grub?
A brub.
A brub.
A brub. A boob rub. A front rub. A frub.
Hey, babe, you want some frub?
We're going to frub later. This has nothing to do with our topic at all.
Not at all.
But I'm here for it.
It wouldn't be us if we didn't talk about some shit.
I know, but I feel like we've been so clean and we haven't gone into like anything sort of debauchery related in a long time. I mean, I'm just going to put that out there. I don't have a story to back it up at this exact moment. Though we did have sex on the couch last night.
Oh, damn.
The Olympics were giving. We were like, let's have an Olympic sport right here, right now.
Did you win the gold?
I did.
Perfect.
I would consider it a 200 meter dash or what do you call that in swimming?
It depends on what stroke you did.
Okay. We're going to go with the crawl.
Excuse me, ma'am.
I don't know. I wanted to say the breaststroke, but you can't. That's like one of the most difficult strokes there is.
I hear that Jeffrey likes the breaststroke.
He does like the breaststroke.
Or as we call them, brubs.
That's
Sorry.
brubs. But brubs can only be done as you're like moving past someone, right? Like if you're intentionally fondling, that's not a brub.
Well, see, my husband will intentionally fondle and then walk away.
That's not
all day long.
Okay, that's different than a brub.
That's called foreplay.
Yeah. I've heard good things though about doing foreplay throughout the day and then it builds up.
2 thumbs up.
Okay.
10 out of 10 recommend.
All right.
Yeah.
So if you listeners are out there and you're in a sexual funk, apparently foreplay throughout the day can help. Even sexting. Sexting is
all
considered.
the things.
Yeah. Though sexting is a little dangerous now with kids that check your phone.
Yeah.
It can be a little uncomfortable. Oh my God. You know what else is uncomfortable?
Oh boy, you're going to tell me.
I forgot about this. Like a week and a half ago, we were having sexy time at night, and Graham had really been struggling to fall asleep. Like, just kept coming in, and I was like, Graham, just go fuck the bed, and like all the things, right? And I went and checked on him and Emmy, and I thought he was asleep. So I came back to the bedroom. I locked the door, or so I thought, crawled back in bed and revisited the place we were at within the exercise. It's not, I don't know. I didn't know what word to put there. Anyways, then Graham walks in.
You know, this is not the first time this has happened in your house.
It's not, but it's the only other time this has ever happened was when Emmeline walked in, but we were like completely covered up.
This is when you guys said you were wrestling, right?
Wrestling, yeah. And she was probably 5. Graham's 8.
Yeah,
and
this
Jeff
is a whole
was
different
going
scenario.
down on me.
Oh no. Oh no.
Oh yes. And it was one of those things where like it was in slow motion, but I just like whipped my leg around Jeff's head and like sat, and I had a top on still, so I was clothed, and I like sat on the edge of on the bed, and Jeff just kind of casually rolled back and like lifted the blanket up over his body. And I was like, Graham, what can we do for you? And he's like, I can't sleep. And I was like, come on. And I just like walked him back to his bed, and I like turned around at Jeffrey, and I was like, and he was like, you know, like, you didn't fucking lock the door, you know? And I was like, I did. So I got him into bed. I came back. I was like, what the fuck? He's like, I was like, I locked the door. He's like, clearly you didn't. And I was like, well, you know what? The moment's gone. I was like, there's no coming back from that for me personally.
Yeah, that's a real buzzkill.
I totally forgot that happened.
See?
You're the first person I've told. Well,
you just told our listeners we weren't going to go there today.
No, I said we hadn't gone there in a long time. And then ding, ding, ding.
There
idea.
There it is.
It was just, well, don't forget about that time 2 weeks ago, Rachel. Oh, yeah.
Are you guys it's coming up. Are you going to do the challenge, the October challenge that you
sure not
always challenge us to and then never complete? Every year I get the call though from you. You're like, oh, it's on. It's time. And it's like right after you guys have done it the first time. It's like,
yeah, we're going to do it. Yeah. I would love to actually commit to something like that and finish it because...
And it's every single day, right?
It's every single day. Both people have to have an orgasm, but it can be self-induced or it can be done by your partner. But you have to have an orgasm every single day consecutively throughout the month of October. And I think the goal, though, is to do it together. And I've heard interesting things like statistic wise that if like the more you have sex, the more your body craves it. So the easier it becomes, which would be an interesting thing to experience.
I mean, I don't know how often you're talking about, but I would say that's true.
Yeah.
Based on our sex life.
How frequent?
So we go through cycles.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. With the schedule, I would say there are some times where it will be multiple times a day. And there's some times where it's once a week or once every 2 weeks.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's get into it.
Let's just get into it.
All right. Welcome to Two Mystic Mamas. Now that we have your attention.
You've heard us talk so many times on this podcast and use the word empath. I would say specifically you have used the word empath a lot.
Yes.
To explain yourself.
Correct.
And
it's a title that I can get down with.
Right. Today's episode is self-care for empaths. And we want to share all of our stories, tips, tricks, all the things with you guys. But first, Rach, can you give our listeners a definition, a description of what it means to be an empath?
Sure. So I'm going to start with a little bit of a story. So I've always been very sensitive to feelings, and I've always been very sensitive to people in general. And most of my professional career has been in the technology space as a project program manager. So dealing with a lot of different groups of people, dealing with people of authority, executives, communication, all of that. And I have always struggled throughout my life because I would be classified as like over emotional, too sensitive. I would openly show emotion. So I would cry or I'd get teary-eyed and it would make people uncomfortable. And it wasn't until I left my last job that I was able to take the time to like study a little bit more about being an empath, because I'd always heard the word empathy and I always resonated with that word, but I didn't realize that being an empath was like something you just are. And so I had a Reiki master perform some Reiki on me, and she said that. She's like, "You're an intuitive empath." And I was like, "Oh, what the fuck is that?" And then I went home and I looked it up, and sure as shit, everything I've read about it, I'm like, yes, that resonates. Yes, that tracks. Oh my gosh. Yes, that is what I am. And so that's my definition of it, if you will. But the true definition of an empath is a person who is highly attuned to the feelings and emotions of those around them. So I would say a lot of people that are empaths also associate themselves with other empaths because there's a lot of synchronicities. Like I'd consider you an empath on a lot of levels. And there's different types. This is the other interesting thing. There's different types of empaths. So because once I figured out that, she said, you're an intuitive empath. There's all these different types of empaths, like I said, but being an intuitive empath means that your intuition guides a lot of your decision-making when it comes to how you approach life. And so I have always had that intuitional pull in pretty much every decision I've ever made. Falling in love, not falling in love. I didn't fall in love. I wouldn't allow myself to fall in love in my 20s because I was too scared of being that attached to another human that could hurt me. And I had no way of protecting myself. I had no idea. So if you're listening and you're like, oh my God, everything she's saying is resonating with me, then that's what this episode is all about. It's about identifying what type of empath you are, because mostly everybody has an empathetic side. They have a part of their just designs as humans that allows us to care and be compassionate and want to help other people.
Unless you're a sociopath.
Yeah, or a fucking narcissist.
I do want to share some signs that I think are, green flags for me to somebody being an empath.
Oh, green flags. Yeah. Way to spin that. Yeah, I like it.
Well, I think that there's such a negative connotation.
You can have glimmers.
Glimmers, exactly.
Yeah, no, that's good.
For whatever reason, there's like a really negative connotation with being an empath. Like being sensitive is a bad thing. But it's not just about being sensitive, right? So if any of these things that we're going to talk about make your eyes light up, then you might be an empath. Natural born truth detectors, right? If you naturally can smell bullshit a mile away, that's a pretty good sign that you're an empath, right? I think both of us.
I always wanted to be a detective.
Me too.
I just never wanted
about this. Yes. My FBI time is.
That's right. I just never wanted to be a cop, but I loved always asking all the questions.
Right.
And connecting the dots.
Yeah.
And then following the emotional triggers that people give off. Because it's like, wait, what? What? Yeah.
Well, that's another thing is that people that are empaths have a strong belief in humanity, right? They're naturally inquisitive. And a lot of times that also will correlate to people having very strong reactions to violence on TV, hearing things in the news that are negative. And these are just all a part of the like natural reactions of being an empath and being very highly attuned to the world around you energetically.
Okay, I'm going to tell a story. To this whole point, I was at a grocery store and I was leaving the grocery store and I only had Amy and Graham at the time, and I was putting Graham in the car, and this car had pulled in and they parked like really cockeyed, but there was no other cars around them. So I was like, what? And that was my first like, why is he parked like a jackass? And I was putting Graham in and he got out and he was yelling at whoever was in the passenger side in a way that I was like, who is he talking to? And we live in a very nice neighborhood. And not that like shit can't get real with people. Like I totally understand that like life happens. But 9 times out of 10, people were very nice here. They talk to each other nicely, right? So I was like, who is this kid yelling at? Because when I looked at him, he looked like he was in his early 20s. And so now I'm watching this whole thing take place, and I see this girl get out, and he looked disheveled. He looked like he was high on something. He was acting like a dickhead. And I was like, I don't like him. Like I picked up on his energy right away and was like, something's off. Mm-hmm. Something is off with him. And then this young girl gets out, and she is like a hollowed out person, and also young, but beautiful, put together. And I'm looking at her face and I'm like, oh my God, this is such a sad situation. Like, and I'm thinking, why is he yelling at her like this? Because clearly there was abuse involved, right? And so I was like, right? They both go into the grocery store. I take a picture of the license plate. I take a picture of the car, and then I zoom in and I take a picture of the license plate. And I had my kids with me. So I was like, I am not getting involved. This isn't my situation to get involved. I'm not a cop, right? But I went immediately to the police station. I told them exactly what happened. I was like, I have no evidence that anything is actually happening other than my intuition is saying something is happening. I said that he parked, and I told him the whole thing. I gave him all the details, right? Left the police station. About 2 hours later, he calls me and he's like, hi, so we have been trying to arrest him for a very long time. And your picture, your evidence, and what ended up happening, he went into the grocery store and was using counterfeit money.
Stop it.
To buy whatever or break. Maybe it was like counterfeit. I don't know all the details, right? But the police have been trying to nail him for quite some time for a bunch of other things, and they just needed something concrete to bring him in. And so he did. They both ended up getting charged with a bunch of crimes. And then I got subpoenaed to come to court.
Oh, no.
And I was like, what is happening? But again, it was just listening to that intuition and following my gut, like something's not right here. Something is not right here, and it's bad. But being smart enough to know I wasn't going to put my kids in harm's way or myself, because it wasn't my place to like stop whatever was happening. Right. And so, yeah, I just think that when we're going through these pieces, it's important to tell stories that like validate that we're not making this shit up. Like it is 100%
right.
True. It happens all the time.
I mean, I feel things all of the time, to the point where my husband has actually started being like, hey, babe, can you not invade my psychic space right now? And I don't even realize, right? Mm-hmm. Sometimes, because it just happens so naturally. And so we've had a lot of conversations about that and how that like can affect a relationship.
Well, and there's ethics involved when you start getting into doing mediumship and psychic readings and things like that. Like you can't just divulge downloads that you receive to people that haven't asked.
It's usually things that he's getting ready to tell me, talk to me about. It can be like, something that happened in his day or something silly or stupid. But I get that transmission before he ever has a chance to say it. And I'm like, oh, did blah, 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 blah. And he's like, Kristen, Just give me an opportunity to tell you.
Don't take all the fun away.
I know, but I don't mean to.
Like, no, I know.
Because sometimes I don't have complete control over it.
Mm-hmm. It's true.
Yeah. One of the things that goes along with all of this energy that we're talking about can be unexplained fatigue. It can be absolutely exhausting to constantly be taking on other people's energies.
Especially as a collective, too.
Right. We've talked about, protecting our energy.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things happening in the world right now that are very hard.
You have, when you're around certain people as an individual, you can take on their energy. Or if you go to, it doesn't have to be a human. It can be a place as well. I mean, places definitely possess energy. There's no doubt. I've walked into plenty of places where I'm like, we're going to turn around right fucking now.
Oh, 100%.
I am not, it's not even like I want to deal with it. It's like, no, it's like just bad energy all around, and it's not mine to fix.
Right. And when you are, this would be one of my tips for you guys is when you are receiving energy like this all the time, if any of this is resonating with you, be mindful of who you are giving your time and attention to.
Subconsciously or consciously, because remember, so Kristen and I, we went and met up with this incredible woman who's local here, and she's going to be on the podcast. And we had a coffee date. It was like our first meeting together. And at the end of it, she's also highly gifted in a lot of metaphysical ways. And she said to me, do you ever call your energy back? And I was like, what? I was like, I do like energy protection rituals and prayers in the morning and before I go to bed, but I don't know of what you speak. And she was like, okay. She's like, you just have to do, when you go home, just like you would start any ritual, light a candle, call in your team of light, whoever that is. So for me, it's divine source energy. It's the archangels. It's my guardian angels. It's my spirit guides. It's the indigenous people of the land where I am presently located, and any friends and family who have gone before me. So I got a shitload of people that I usually invoke, or spirit or angels. And you just do that. You ask that you bring back the power or the energy that has been given or taken from you without your consent, which is such an interesting thing, because that's a game changer. And I had said in this whole thing, I was like, that's so fascinating that you say that, because I have been feeling the collective energy of the world this past month a lot. Like, it's been very heavy on me.
Right.
Emotionally and physically. Like, I've been physically feeling very heavy.
Right. We talked a little bit about this in that meeting too, because what I found works for me is that when we are putting intention out, right, that we are trying to manifest or bring things into our life, right, and we're always kind of pulling towards ourselves, we're naturally pulling all of this other energy at the same time. And so what I found works for me really is that I've been manifesting outward and really putting great intention out into the world, into the community, into people that may not deserve it, and putting good love and care and intention into those people. And it is rewarding me emotionally 3 times over.
Yeah.
Every time I do it.
Yep. And I think that's so good, because I think sometimes it is about you, but it is about the collective, because you're part of the collective. And from time to time, the collective as a whole needs that manifestation, and it needs that request going out. And then if turn, because you're a part of it, you do get rewarded, instead of just being individual about what you're looking for and making intentions and manifestations. So that was a really interesting exercise. And I think it just brings up, and we talk a lot about this too on a lot of our episodes, that you can start this journey wherever you are. It's not something that just because you haven't done it up to a certain point that you can't start doing it now. And so I think that that was a really great exercise that I did for the first time on Monday, but it certainly won't be the last time, because it's like cutting cords. Like the first time you do a cord cutting, it's a great first step, but you're not going to cut every single cord that you've ever created. And I think that's true of taking your power back. You're going to be great at taking it back from people, places, and things that are top of mind that you can be like, oh my God. But then there's other things that potentially are from a past life that you haven't taken your power back from, right? So what does that look like? And how do you go and walk that path? And how do you, figure that out? So I'm going to try and remember to do that exercise at least once a week till I feel lighter.
This is kind of off topic, but an interesting concept all the same when it comes to how we are creating in our worlds. It was the idea that we act right now as if the things that happened previously worked out exactly how we wanted. So you're creating what you want by putting the intention into your right now, as though that relationship that, went sideways actually ended peacefully the way that you wanted it to, or that investment that you wanted to make that you didn't make actually worked out for you. And there's some like quantum physics involved with how this works. So I know we've kind of skirted around this issue, and I just don't feel like I have personally enough information to speak on it soundly, but I want to.
Quantum physics?
Yeah.
Okay. We're really going to have to prep for that episode.
But the idea that we are putting all of this intention out there, and the quote that I have been living with recently is that, we talked about this before. Life happens for us, not to us, right? Tony Robbins, cool. I've been on board with this for a few years. This is a reiteration of that, but it's life happens from us.
Yeah.
So everything that we're doing, every subconscious thought, every energy that we are sucking in, every single piece of that is creating our reality.
Totally. And that's why sometimes if this is another thing that if you're an empath, you most likely have struggled with until you don't fucking struggle with it, is creating boundaries. Because of the way that we're wired, we naturally care for other people, and people that always play the victim or are sociopaths or are narcissists, they actually can suck the life out of us more than anybody else, because there's no fixing them. And that's another thing that I have come to terms with is I can't fucking fix people.
Well, and these can be people that you love dearly.
Oh, these are people that you will be blood related to.
Blood related to, best friends. Yep. I mean, you name it.
Yep.
There are going to be people in your life that absolutely suck the energy out of you by one of those things that she was talking about, right?
Yep.
Constantly being a victim, being a narcissist.
Yep. And just there's no recognition, there's no responsibility. And the other interesting thing is once you then establish boundaries, you come to find out about boundaries, the definition of boundaries, how to establish them in a really loving, beautiful way, and how they will not get on board with it. That is not a concept that they will understand. They will gaslight you. They will make you feel less than. And that's why you have boundaries.
Well, and I think a lot of times what you'll find is once you start to step into your power in this way and not allow this kind of energy, those kind of people are going to start to distance themselves anyway.
Yes, but not initially. Initially, they're going to get pissed off. They're going to get mad. They're going to bring up lower frequency energies that are going to trigger, right? But again, on the other side of a trigger is a glimmer. And so you have to try to like walk that path. And it can be a very intense path for a period of time, and just trust that if you're in this path now, it does, like, you will get to the other side. You will see the light at the end of the tunnel. Just continue to honor yourself, continue to honor that light that's within you. And if it gets hard and it gets to that like sticky point, that's when you can just remain calm, because they will see themselves out. But you have to remain calm. You don't want to get excited. You don't want to feed back into what is. Because I find personally for me, when I've established boundaries, they haven't come without drama, which I do not get down with. I don't get down with talking shit on people. I don't get down with triangling. I just don't get down with the drama. I do, however, get down with analyzing a situation and trying to understand it. But every time that I have ever tried to like let my guard down or maybe lower the boundary a little bit, the drama comes right back in and I'm like, oh no, sorry.
Yeah, there's definitely those people in your life that will come surging back in and just rip that Band-Aid right off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay.
If
So
you
that's
let them.
that's another sign that you are an empath.
Right.
If you have a hard time establishing boundaries until you don't have a hard time establishing boundaries. And then it's like, oh,
Right.
like I've met people in our community where within the first 10 minutes, I'm going to be like, I have a hard boundary with that person. Like
Right.
mentally, I
Right.
say that, not like I don't say that out
Right.
loud to their face, but like,
Well, the other side of this, when it comes to boundaries and relationships with people, is that as empaths, people are naturally drawn to us to tell us all the fucking things.
like the deepest, darkest, weirdest secrets that upon a first meeting, you would not necessarily divulge to a stranger.
I was at the psychic fair
Yes.
a few months ago.
I feel like I have got to go to one of these, but that's another, well, we'll get into
Right.
it, but crowds can be very
Yeah, we can talk about
triggering
that.
for,
So we were getting ready to leave and I was in the restroom and I was in a stall and the girl next to me just started talking to me in the stall next to me. I didn't see her walking in. She was already in the stall. There was no reason for her to strike up a conversation with me.
you weren't wearing
Right.
sparkly, glittery cherry boots.
I wasn't doing anything except peeing.
Maybe it was the way you were peeing that she
Right.
was like, oh my.
And then she was like, she just started talking to me and then she's like, how old are you? Like we had this whole conversation through the bathroom stall. And she starts telling me all of these things about this relationship that she's in and that her boyfriend that she's at this hotel with. And she was from another state. And I mean, all of this literally through a bathroom stall. I didn't see the girl until much later. And then it was just this wild situation where I felt like a priest. They like go in
In a confessional.
in a confessional.
That's hilarious. Dear child.
I wish I had had like
Tell
a
me all
little
your
window in the
sins.
stall. I mean, I don't actually, but like,
Yeah. And please don't tell her to do 10 Our Fathers and 5 Hail Marys.
no, but I was like, I gave her very real,
Sound advice.
raw advice.
Yep.
Because she was not at the hotel for the psychic fair. They were there for something else. And she wanted to go into the psychic fair.
Yes.
And her boyfriend was giving her a load of shit about it.
Yeah.
And it was like a whole thing.
I think that's why people also naturally open up to us, because they're looking for validation or they're looking for an answer. And we tend to just be like, well, this is your answer.
Right. And then afterwards she was like, are you like, do you do readings? Like, are you a medium? And I was like, well, I'm not a medium per se, but yeah, I do readings.
Mm-hmm.
She was like, will you do one? I'm like, we're literally still in the bathroom stall.
Yes. Yeah. Not in this environment. But yes, if you want to make an appointment with me, here's my information. I'm happy to do a reading with you. That's another thing that I get, that people need to understand. When you do this type of work, again, there's ethics involved in it. And you don't just start reading people to read people. There has to be that exchange, and it has to be mutual. And so I remember my teacher for the angel communication practitioner course, she had a student at one point that was very, very psychic, and would get downloads from loved ones in the medium type, in the medium arena, that gift. And she was at a bank, at a bank's window, and the teller was counting her money or doing whatever it was that she had asked her to do. And the teller's grandmother came and appeared and gave her a download, and she told the teller, and the teller lost her damn mind. Not in a good way, she did not want to receive it, and she didn't fucking ask for it.
All right. So I've had this happen to me a couple of times, actually, where I was the one receiving messages. And it happened to me once at the psychic fair, and it was someone that was doing a reading for me, and I received a message for her, and it happened just this week in my summit. And so if I have an established connection with somebody, like both of these people that it happened with me recently, I had some sort of a connection established with them at that moment, right? Obviously, I'm in somatic therapy, somatic coaching. Her and I have like a very close relationship. And, this other woman is doing a reading for me. And so the way that I handle it, because I know both of these people are kind of in the same realm with us, right?
Yeah.
Is, I said, hey, I'm actually receiving a message. Like, are you open to receiving something from me right now?
Well, but that's the exchange.
That's the exchange. Exactly.
That's the exchange. You can't just without an exchange give somebody something that they didn't ask for.
There's a lot of self-care that has to go in to being a person that absorbs other people's energies, or receives messages from the other side.
Well, to your point about how you can be really lethargic, I always thought, again, not having the answers to like why I was wired the way I was, I remember we would have like, if we ever had big team meetings or like retreats, I was on this pan-European project for almost 2 years, and I would get very, very emotionally and mentally drained. And that can be true just because it could be a lot of information to absorb, but then you couple it with the fact that I'm an intuitive empath, and it like amplifies it by tenfold, which now I know. But I used to get just unbelievably exhausted, where I was like, I don't know why I'd be this fucking tired,
Do you think that maybe you could ask your angels to send you a message next time that your child's going to walk in while you're having sex beforehand? You could prepare for that.
Yeah.
I feel like that could be a good conversation.
So it's funny though,
angels.
But then last night we had sex on the couch with both of them asleep in their bedrooms. Like we were like, throw caution to the wind. It doesn't matter. We're just going to do it in this open space. But yeah, I actually just asked them recently for a very specific sign. So we'll see if it pans out. All right, let's continue on.
Yeah.
Empaths.
So I want to talk a little bit about how we do take care of ourselves. I think for me, it's important that I feel like I can plan some self-care for myself. And that looks very, very different for a lot of people, right? And like, I know for me that I need to have space for personal development, right? That's a big part of me developing my gifts too, is having that space for personal development and spending time in nature. This is a big one with empaths, right?
So you see that guy? I know you didn't grow up Catholic.
I did not.
But that's Saint Francis of Assisi. And he was the patron saint of animals. And to your point, nature has always resonated with me. Always. The love of animals, just being outside, the trees talking to each other.
Water, paths, lakes, rivers, oceans.
Yeah. Well, the oceans particularly for you have a very deep.
It's so wild.
Yeah.
I'm so attached to the ocean.
Yeah.
Emotionally.
I think I'm more attached to mountains and rivers and all things green.
Yeah.
I think that's also too, I remember when I went out to like the Grand Canyon and just going out west, that environment did not resonate with me at all. Not even a little bit.
Right. And, for a part of this for me is also being able to help others find their own truth. You and I are both people of service.
Mm-hmm.
And I think sharing our gifts and sharing what we go through is really important.
Yep.
Because we've talked about this before. There's a lot of people that will just deem you as fucking crazy.
Yeah. Well, and And I was going to say on that same line is to get curious. We've said this before, but if you have this like desire or urge to learn more about why you are wired the way you are, then get curious about it and look into when you were born, look into these different, like just Google what is an empath. You will get these steps that basically highlight like different things that would characterize you as an empath, and just start and figure it out and question everything. Like just get curious about it, because a lot of times too with empaths, our belief systems that we have been raised with tend to find them more triggering than we do. Like we just don't tend to accept things just to accept things. We question things a lot because we just want to know like why things are the way they are, and it goes back to being curious, because I was always, I just knew that I was meant for more, but I always was like, why does everyone find me so, like everyone found me triggering, right? Because when you get upset or emotional or passionate or any of those things, it just makes people uncomfortable instead of just like, like accepting what is, because I would always question things. If somebody said something that I was like, that doesn't resonate or that doesn't track with me, but I don't know why. Can we just like explore that a little bit more? It's like, no, it is the way it is. And I'd be like, well, it's not though. Right.
I mean, people don't want to be uncomfortable.
No, but I think that to your point about helping our listeners, I just want to offer that encouragement. So if you're listening right now, there is energy that is flowing through this microphone, through your speakers, into your ears, that we are sending you so much encouragement to just take the first step and get curious about you being uniquely you.
And ask the questions, like she's saying, not just of the world, but of yourself. Truly learn and know what it is that you need. What is it that you need? And then fucking give it to yourself.
Yeah.
Why are we not doing this?
I don't know. Maybe you need a facial. Maybe you need a massage. Maybe you need to go out and have dinner by yourself.
Maybe you need to have radical acceptance of who you are.
Also
and
true.
Stop trying to change yourself.
Yep. And just have so much empathy for yourself, right? Because we say this with such passion and determination, but it is and can feel very scary and daunting. And that is a valid place to start. But from there, where do you go? How do you take that first step to at least be like, great, I've recognized this about me, and now I want to,
Right. Because it's up to us to strengthen ourselves.
Yeah.
To the world.
Yep.
Not the other way around.
Right.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that a lot of times that we forget that this could be your superpower.
100%.
Like,
and this is just the tip of the iceberg. Once you start taking these steps to uncover your gifts, work on your clairs, find out about, how to just, it gets me so jazzed up because
she's getting horny over here.
Well, that's right. Oh God, here we go. But yeah, it does. And get into yourself, man.
Yeah. Don't be afraid to strengthen your gifts.
No.
Positive self-talk
and
is like essential to this process.
Out loud.
Out loud in the mirror.
Yes.
Affirmations every single day.
Yep. And if you can't remember affirmations, then just write them down on a Post-it and stick them all over your wall. And to your point about how you make time for self-care, empaths need alone time. Yep. That's where we recharge.
Yes.
So that recharging can look different for different people. So Kristen really enjoys personal development and reading and figuring out, information that's going to nourish her mind, body, and soul, which I get down with a lot too. I find a lot of solace in doing meditations and rebalancing my chakras and finding a place to just ground myself. And I always, well, I know we both do this. We start and end our days with gratitude. And we will reiterate this. We will sing about this. We will probably talk about it on almost every fucking podcast episode we have. But finding gratitude in your daily existence is an easy task. I don't care if you've had the worst possible day. I don't care if you are just at the lowest point that you've ever been. There are 3 things that you'd be able to say, I am so grateful for.
Yeah. And if you have one of those days, do 2 things for us. 1, find your gratitude, right? Like Rachel's saying. And 2, move your fucking body. I had a hard conversation for like an hour on the phone on the way down here today that was not scheduled. It was a blind spot. I didn't see it coming. And I got here, I processed, I talked to Rachel, I talked to Charlie, and then I moved my fucking body. She put on some good, what was the name of that playlist? Solar Lion something. Some very long playlist on Spotify.
Sirius 888.
Yeah.
Solar
with some crown
lunar
emojis.
Yeah. Sure. But it basically had like a bunch of like dance, trance, electronic EDM music. And yeah, to Kristen's point, like having a dance party with yourself. Mm-hmm. Ooh, it can be gifting.
Right. We've both given each other this recommendation in the last week.
It's true.
Yeah. I told her like a few days ago.
On Monday, you were like, you have 2 pieces of homework.
Yep. Go have a fucking dance party.
Yeah. So yeah, moving your body and just giving yourself some alone time to recharge is also a sign that you are most likely an empath of some sort. I
feel like we could talk about this all day, but is there anything that you want to share, Rachel, that will bring us home?
No, I mean, I think that we will just talk about this at length on different episodes with guests. And, that's our goal, is to bring on experts in these different fields, because there's a lot of science behind this as well. This isn't something that, naturally Kristen and I, we have this podcast, we have this platform to inform and educate to the best of our ability through our experiences, but we aren't experts. And I think that this is such a beautiful area that every human possesses. And if we can change one listener that's listening today that is, on the struggle bus and just needs some encouragement to be like, to understand why they're wired the way they are, then, I'm glad that we are able to help that one person.
100%.
And I just always want to utilize this platform as a community-based platform that we bring souls together and we make magic and we tell stories and we love on each other, because life's too fucking short and too fragile and precious to not live authentically with the gifts that we have been given. And Kristen and I have incredible gifts that we want to nourish and grow and share with the world.
And please know that you have value. You have so much value. If you are sitting here and you're like, I don't have any gifts. Bullshit.
Yeah, I call bullshit.
Yeah, I call bullshit. You have gifts.
Yep.
And if you want help uncovering them, email us, reach out to us.
Yep.
Like, we are here for you guys, because to Rachel's point, we're sharing our experience in any way that we can to help other people move through this experience maybe a little bit more gracefully than we did.
Well, and there's beautiful communities out there. So if you're someone that also is not comfortable necessarily putting a face, to your name, you can still do a lot of it anonymously. You can get on any of our socials. You can look at other accounts that we follow on socials. We tend to, a bird of the feather flock together, and just, you're not alone.
You're not.
And your spirit guides and your team of light are also right fucking there. So we haven't touched on that at all, but you can call on them at any point in time and ask for signs. And it can be specific, it can be broad, it can be whatever you want it to be, but they're there to help and support and love you. You just gotta ask. And sometimes asking is the hardest part, right? Like, How many times have we been in situations where had we just asked, like, especially when I was younger, like had I just asked the question, right? I don't do it anymore because what's the worst somebody can say? No.
Oh my God.
Okay.
You just think back to all the times that you were afraid to ask a question.
Oh my God. But I can remember that feeling. And especially now because Emmeline is walking through some of that, and I'm able to be there physically, emotionally, and spiritually for her and help her to do that. And naturally, I can't do it for her. Right. But I can remember it's been bringing back so many times where I didn't ask the question and what that felt like in my soul. I used to feel it. I mean,
I know.
And it's such a weird feeling to revisit.
I feel like our girls are doing a much better job of managing that.
That's because of us. Not all of it, but a lot of it is. Like, we should really thank ourselves for doing a fucking good job, because it is such a thankless job. Our kids are not going to thank us because they don't know what they don't know.
Right.
But we can thank each other. Thank you, Kristen, for being a good mom.
Thank you, Rachel, for being a great mom. Love you.
Yeah, love you. And thank you, listeners, for listening and supporting this podcast and sharing it with people that also will resonate with us, because you helping us to share is a free way of just showing that. And we appreciate every person that listens to it. We don't take it for fucking granted at all. And because of you, we're going to continue to be able to, put our frequency out there and our vibration.
Yep. Project some great energy out into the world today. Whatever you got, project it out there. See what comes back.
All right.
Love you guys.
We do.
Ciao, ciao.
All right. Bye.